Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in. All
Yo,
right.
yo, how's it
Uh,
going?
Good. Another week. Good to talk to you.
Yeah. It's a bit later in the week now. We're
Yeah,
recording this on a Friday.
we are recording. We usually do on a Wednesday, but
Yeah.
it's now Friday because I was at the Green Sports Alliance this week. So,
Right. Yeah. How
mhm.
was it? Star-studded?
Oh, sure. Like it's great because you get a mix of like folks from, various leagues that we hear about, the LA 28, people from venues that we all know,
Yeah.
like a whole mix of people, and of course vendors and other service providers. So, yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Is there new energy coming in? Like, are you seeing new people being interested in it, or sort of the same old cast of characters?
I mean, this is my third year going, so like now I recognize people, right? And they're, some of the same folks on stage again, but they're promoting, certain initiatives and, collaborative efforts and these sorts of things. But I think, GSA is really, starting to tighten up a bit in terms of like, they've now got a strategy. They're
Yeah.
trying to, operationally, focus and this sort of thing. So you can kind of see that evolution. For me, like I'm bringing, the broadcasters in. Like I really want
Yeah.
them to show up. I invited a few to come. I had a session from the broadcasters' perspective, which was great. It looked like they were like leaning in to hear more because there's a
I
lot.
love
There's
it.
a lot. So yeah, people
Yeah.
don't really realize what goes on behind the scenes. And so, we had some folks who were really, veterans in their field and talking about it. So all sorts of cool stories. So
Totally. Which totally reminds me of the broadcasting thing that I did in 2018.
yeah.
Yeah, with it was with Portable Electric, but we went. I think it was one of the first. We were one of the first to really do this, but we went down with Fox Sports,
Uh-huh.
and we powered the USGA Pebble Beach Amateur Golf Championship.
Okay.
And yeah, we went out and we set up solar and batteries at like camera towers and RF repeater positions and all over the course, like literally next to greens and tee boxes. And like it was grassroots. That was in 2018. I mean, that was
Yeah.
like we wrote like a report, we had data, we had, you know,
I
pounds
re-
and tons of carbon abated. Like it was like a true academic thing. I mean, it's kind of like fallen off the face of the planet at this point. I mean, it's probably not even it's in the history books, but I thought that was a long time ago.
2018. Yeah.
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 So
Well, it's interesting because that kind of thing, that kind of example came up in the conversation. So I think, I'm going to send that report off to the Fox folks and let them see it then because,
yeah, that was with
um,
Matt Halpern. I think that he was the one overseeing
yeah.
it at the time. We were so far ahead of our time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. It's so cool. Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity for batteries in sports,
Yeah.
in various
Especially golf.
capacities, especially golf. Like that's, you already did it. So,
Yeah. It's just the solar panels, obviously, like that takes up real estate, takes up space, but you can hang them from the towers. Like you can hybridize as well, right? So you can have batteries and a small generator so that, the generator is charging the batteries and then you can have it quiet for most of the time.
right. Of
Yeah.
course. Of course. Cool. Well,
Fun. Yeah. There you go.
yeah, there you
Well,
go. Little sports
blast from
nod
the past.
there.
Totally. And
Yeah.
then and then I was at Otherworld this weekend, the regional Burning Man event. It was friggin' amazing. It was fantastic. 3,500 people, and it felt like just like the purest essence of Burning Man. Like it was really, really great. Not a lot of solar.
Oh,
Now we're in a region in Vancouver Island that can be rainy, it can be cold, but it was like super hot, super sunny, like 30 degrees Celsius. Um, my camp started a saloon. We had solar and batteries. We powered the whole weekend with it. I saw a couple solar panels here and there, smaller stuff, but really didn't see too much. Heard a lot of janky, loud generators. Yeah, a lot of those. So you know what though? It used to like really, really bug me. I used to like,
Well,
I
that's
just I
why
was
you
just
started
like
a company,
I was like,
right?
ugh, God, why are you so angry, little generator? But um,
Why do I have to get my hot dog from the stand that's so
exactly.
angry? It's yelling
I
at me.
still I still saw lots of that, but overall, we're still just chipping away at it, right? But yeah,
Hmm.
so it was great, but not as much. I was hoping to get out there and do a little footage and get a little footage, but I ended up not doing too much. Just enjoying myself and taking care of the solar for Stardust and just sort of seeing what's out there, seeing who's doing what. So
Yeah.
that was great.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, we've got a fun conversation coming up
Hmm.
with Benjamin Ryan Nathan, but we're gonna
Yeah.
call him Ben
Ben.
because there's a
Yeah.
lot of first names on this one, um, which is fun. Yeah, we're talking about, gosh, purposeful work in
Hmm.
all that he's done. I mean, it
It's done a
encompasses a
lot.
lot. Yeah. So, hope everyone enjoys it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell a
Yeah.
friend, share an episode. We've got to get the word out on this stuff. We've got some really great episodes coming
Hmm.
up. So, stay tuned and help us spread this positivity of sustainability or energy efficiency or innovation or however you want to say it.
All of it. All
Yeah.
of it. Yeah. And we'd love to hear from you. So
Hmm.
feel free to reach out anytime. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the tie-in. Today, we're excited to talk with Benjamin Ryan Nathan. He's an award-winning filmmaker based in New York. Over the past 20 years, he has worked in TV, film, and advertising and has produced, directed, and edited over 200 commercials, viral videos, short-form documentaries, and branding and marketing projects. His work has garnered over 20 million views online and on television. Dedicated to using the art of filmmaking as a tool to better the planet, he has collaborated with major organizations including the UN Environment, Sesame Street, the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities, American Cancer Society, Armed Technologies, and National Dance Institute to bring inspiring and powerful stories of human transformation to a wide audience. He's also the founder of All of Us Films, bringing together top talent to create media that makes a profound positive impact on today's world. Hello, Ben. We're looking forward to speaking with you today.
So excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been in business, in the entertainment business for over 14 years. I'm curious, how did you get started? It seems like you've worked in a lot of different aspects of it. Can you walk us
Actually,
through how
I
you
have
got?
to update that bio. It's been closer to 2 decades now.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow.
well, I got started. Uh, long story is that I'm a dancer first. I started off as a dancer and
Oh.
really primarily as a tap dancer, and then started to choreograph my own work and film my choreography. And through that, really got into film. And so, what else can I do with film and storytelling? It was always about the stories for me. Um, I worked in commercials and TV and advertising for a while and really got to hone my skills there, working for other companies, working with other really great people, and eventually realized, I really want to bring people together to make work where we're instead of selling cars and soda and, other things that maybe I'm not as passionate about, how can we use our talents to promote things that are actually going to help the planet, help the human race, and do that as a team. So that's what we've been doing since I started All of Us Films in 2012, and the journey continues.
Yeah, I'm curious this crossover between dance and film. I see that you worked with the National Dance Institute. What can you tell us a little bit about that or that particular project?
Yeah, so actually, we're making a feature documentary now that's independent, that is about the work of National Dance Institute and their founder, Jacques d'Amboise, who was my mentor for about 30 years. Jacques was the first great male American ballet dancer. He was like the Baryshnikov of the 50s and 60s. That's how I try to explain him to people who don't know him. And he was a Renaissance man. He went into public schools in New York City and started teaching dance to first to just boys and then to boys and girls. And not ballet. It was this kinetic kind of jazzy dance that, if you could run and jump on the playground, you could do this. Even if you're in a wheelchair or blind or deaf, you were in the program. And I was one of those kids in the 90s and went on to teach for the program. And then I said, this is pretty amazing, this type of work. And it's not about creating professional dancers, it's about creating whole human beings.
Yeah.
And so I got passionate about making a film about this work. And over the organization's going to be 50 next year. So
Mm.
over these last 50 years, how have the alumni of the program looked back at their lives and now they're accountants or doctors or construction workers or whatever they're doing? And this, 2 or 3 years in a dance program in their public school in New York City changed their life. So we're making a movie about that. I'm so excited about it. Mandy Patinkin and Catherine Grody are executive producers. Jacques is just a giant of a person, and he passed away a few years ago. But to get to help to tell his story is a tremendous privilege. So that's and we've done lots of work with National Dance Institute over the years.
That's
And
cool.
and the program is still ongoing?
Oh yeah, they were founded in
Mm,
1976. They'll be 50 next year.
yeah.
They've impacted over 2 million kids all over the world since then. It's international now. They call themselves the National Dance Institute, but they've worked all over.
There's something so freeing about just moving your body, right? Like just it's
Incredible,
unbelievable.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell
There,
I'm excited about
I
that.
know. What's the name of
Yeah.
it? Do you have a name?
The movie's called Come Dance with Me, and
Oh,
it's
fun.
named after a poem by a poet named Hafiz, who wrote this poem that I'll paraphrase it, but essentially says, the God that I believe in doesn't say, no or don't or you're not good enough. It says, come dance with me. And Jacques used to repeat that poem all the time, and so that, really became the perfect title for the film.
Wow. That's cool. So where is it in the process? When can we expect to see it?
Well, I'm hoping to have it out next year to
Okay.
coincide with the organization's 50th anniversary. I think it would be,
Okay.
and Jacques would be around 90 years old at this point. Um, so it's a special moment, and we're finishing up. We're raising final funds right now, actually, to finish last bits of filming that we need to do, and then to dive into the major edit process, which is I've been filming this on and off since 2008. So
Wow.
now finishing this up. Some of the kids that we filmed back then are adults. Some of them are teaching in the program. Some of them have kids in the program. It's been a wild ride. So hopefully 2026, that's the goal.
Awesome.
Wow.
Cool.
And
Well,
you've
you'll
been
have to,
doing yeah.
yeah, sorry. You'll have to
Yeah.
keep us posted on that.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I will.
Yeah,
Go
and that's
ahead.
just and how does that parlay then into your work around the social impact of film? Because it sounds like it's on the same theme, but you've done a lot of work on other social impact films. What does that mean to you? I mean, it's a big part of your work.
Yeah, thank you. So social impact, I think, is the broad title we can give to so many different things. We delineate it as education, human rights, social justice, and environment. But really, those are not distinct things. You can't really address one of them without also addressing the other ones. So, Come Dance With Me certainly falls under the realm of education and learning. Um, but it's about how do we create a healthy society, which begins with healthy human beings and, full human beings.
Hmm.
That the idea in terms of this movie, that the arts should not be an extracurricular activity. They are part of the core of who we are as human beings, and the arts is how we express who we are as people. So that should be in school as part of the school day. That should not be something you do at lunch or recess or after school. It should be there during, just as important as math and science. So that is what I hope, what people will discover from this film is yes, that's true. I believe that. And I want to bring that into the school in my neighborhood in some
Hmm.
way. So social impact, if you have these people who've grown up into wholly formed, fully expressed human beings, they're going to do things that are better for society. And that's how we get a healthier planet, a healthier system that we all live within, healthier communities. So to me, this all these things tie in together.
Hmm. Hmm. And you've approached this through different um, topics, right? I mean, is all your work sort of documentary related or
Much of it is.
yeah.
On the independent side, most of it is. But on the client side, we also work with clients all over the world. It's primarily nonprofits, NGOs, mission-driven brands, or brands that have a mission-driven initiative. So, we're focusing on social impact there as well. But
Hmm.
sometimes that's for a for-profit brand that's a benefit corporation, a B Corp, or,
Hmm.
has some other social impact campaign that they're doing. So we may be helping them sell a product, but that
Hmm.
product is also doing good things, for the planet. So it all, that's our ethos, is how do we figure out how does this all work together? We're not anti-capitalist or some particular way of seeing things. It's about how do we work within the system that we have and elevate, business to a level where it's helping society, and doing positive things while doing what it's intending to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes. Go ahead, Zena.
I just have so many questions around
I
this.
know.
I'm curious. So when folks come to you and they want to do some kind of impact campaign or something to that effect, how much like how fully formed are their ideas, and how I'm just curious like how much of your process is also educating them about sort of the more nuanced or complex ways to incorporate the social impact dynamic into what they might have originally been thinking.
Well, that's a great question. Many times, I mean, it's a range. There's definitely a spectrum where with which people come to us. But many times they have an idea for, hey, we want to do a general campaign around this, or we need to fundraise, and this is our general messaging.
Hmm.
But we're working usually hand in hand with those client partners in, what are the stories that are going to really drive specific impact, and what is the action you want people to take? A lot of people use the term call to action very loosely. But for us, because we're a mission-driven organization, we're really invested in the action, the call to action happening. So it's not just like, oh, let's stick this at the end and hope people do it. Everything that we do along the way is informed by what that call to action is. So, whatever that campaign is, whether it's, sign a petition, change a behavior, switch to a particular product that's healthier for you or for the planet, or, different ways of doing things, we're very invested in that being the result, the actual outcome, and
Hmm.
that's what success looks like.
Okay.
Are you finding it more difficult today than before? Obviously, there's a changing political spectrum here. Um, and we know that some of our peers in the industry have been feeling the crunch a little bit. But I'm wondering, does it even matter? I mean, people are still making their choices locally, right, for themselves and for their families, and they still need to be influenced in some form or another. Why not do it for the better? Um,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a challenging time right now on many, many levels. Funding obviously for nonprofits is
mhm.
it's a very, very challenging time for
Hmm.
that. And so the kind of work that we do is critical because they need to they need to tell stories that are impactful, that are going to share with people why this is so important and why they need your support now. Um, on the other hand, I think there's a lot of opportunity to find common ground where we didn't find it before. We didn't even look for it before.
Mhm.
And having the privilege of going around this country and different parts of the world, speaking to people that I wouldn't normally necessarily strike up a conversation with, that's one of the really huge benefits of being a documentary filmmaker. You get access to people that you wouldn't normally get. You get really deep with people very quickly. And what I've learned is and it sounds so cliche, but we have so much in common. There
Hmm.
are things that divide us, and there are people that, have opinions that I'm diametrically opposed to. And there's a lot of people, probably the vast majority of people, that we have a lot of things in common with. And I think we also need to elevate those things. And people may choose, for example, environmental solutions for very different reasons. One person might be like a diehard hippie, back to the lander, and another person might be just trying to save money and not put as many chemicals in the ground because of that, because it costs money. But they're both doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
there's a lot more, I think sometimes we need to get off of our pedestal of why people do it and focus on like, okay, people are doing this. This is a good thing. Let's keep going in this direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of leaning in on like, the caring element of it all. Like, what do we care about, instead of, something that's charged in some way otherwise. Because I think, at the end of the day, we're all people, we care about something.
Right.
We want to
So
feel something. I think that was,
yeah.
I spent a few months traveling around the US on a road trip. And I just, everywhere I went, I mean, there's just people are ready for change. And that's why, I mean, that's why people got swept up in this, in certain ways of certain political orientations in the last election. But people just want to feel something. They want to feel change. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger than them. And
Right.
I don't think that's been front and center for a lot of people for like a long time.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And community. I mean, I think
Yeah.
Community, exactly. That's more than anything.
in the core, that core element of society is community, family and community. When we miss that and we act, we sort of think we need to act like we're fine as an island and we're totally not. And
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
everyone's in this like performative state. I find, it's easy to slip into that, especially in the
Yeah.
culture that we live in. But just getting back to community, and I think that's something people miss so much as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, in your bio, you've got you talked about, producing, directing, and editing 200 commercials or over 200 commercials and viral videos. I'm curious, like, how do you make a viral video? Does it draw out that kind of connection and community element? Is there like, a trick or something? I'm just curious what does that look like?
Well, you can't promise a video will be viral. That's one thing.
Right.
That's
Right.
one thing I've learned is never promise viral. Um,
Mhm.
Something that goes what I've noticed over the years, like the common themes and trends among things that do go viral is, first of all, having a really good distribution plan, like a really good rollout plan. Of course, there's stuff that goes viral by accident,
Hmm.
but when we make something, we don't want to do it by accident. We want to do it intentionally.
Sure.
So, first, certainly sometimes there's ad buys behind things, but for something to organically go viral, it really helps to have a plan of who is going to be part of your rollout team. So having a mix of like influencers, celebrities, non-celebrities, people who are leaders in the corporate world, people who are leaders in different sectors that your thing touches,
Hmm.
who are already planned in a calendar of when they're going to share it and how they're going to share it and what platforms. And it got to be really, really organized. So most of the time, this stuff does not happen by accident. Most of the time, it's really intentional. And the
Hmm.
ones that I've worked on that have gone viral have been very, very intentional in that way. So there's usually a plan in place.
Gosh, I've heard that a lot.
Gotta
Yeah.
Usually a plan.
Unless something
have a
goes wrong
plan.
and then it goes viral, right? And that's
Yeah.
the other.
Well, we had, we've had pieces like that where, it goes, you think something goes viral for the wrong reason or gets bashed by someone or, that's good too. It's all publicity is good publicity, right? So it's good when you get, when, if you're taking such a strong stance that you rub some people the wrong way, you're probably doing the right thing.
Mm, interesting. Yeah.
Uh, I just want to touch on the community bit as I know you've been working in the regenerative farming space, and that's something near and dear to my heart too, as I've been exploring the world of regenerative economics and just regenerative
Wow.
communities, and there's a whole movement, right, afoot, and it starts with the food, right? It starts with the farming. Can you speak to us what does that mean to you, and how does that being reflected in your work?
So, yes, to everything you just said.
Mm,
In 2020, I saw the movie Kiss the Ground on
mm,
Netflix and watched that, and I said, "Oh my God, this is this is amazing. My wife has to see this. I asked her to come and watch it with me. I watched it a second time, and we finished it. And we looked at each other. And we said, "What should we do? Should we buy a farm? Like, how do we get involved in this?" And so we started to make just small contributions to Kiss the Ground, the organization, the nonprofit that was behind the film. And turned out I got an email from the CEO. And he said, "Hey, thanks for contributing. Saw your work. Maybe we can do some things together." I said, "This is a dream come true. I can contribute to the regenerative movement." So we've actually been making all of their short form documentary content for
Amazing.
the past couple of years now. And that has been amazing to see, to get to go around the country, see what different farmers are doing, different approaches, like small farms, gigantic farms. One farm we visited twice now that's the size of the city of Los Angeles.
Wow.
Wow.
Humongous. It's humongous. And they are embracing regenerative practices.
Amazing.
And so this is part of their Kiss the Ground's Stories of Regeneration series, which is on their website. And, we were in North Dakota last summer filming with a couple of farmers who are third and fourth generation on this land. And now figuring out how do we embrace these regenerative practices, the practices that native people were doing here before we got here, before our families got here. One of them, his, I think, 102-year-old grandfather was there, and we got to film with him. And he talked about, seeing the land blow away during the Dust Bowl era. And, that was erosion. That was because they weren't farming regeneratively. And now, doing these practices that are, sequestering carbon, that are, totally changing the way that people farm, but really bringing communities together. And the fascinating thing to me is it's communities on so many levels. It's communities in the soil, like the
Hmm.
microbiome communities underneath the earth. Then there's communities of plants that work together symbiotically to grow together.
Hmm.
And then we have the animal integration. They work in community with the plants. And then it's the human level and working in community with your neighbors, who maybe one farmer has cattle and another has crops, and they need to, fertilize the soil with the manure from the cattle, and the cattle need to eat the grass that's growing on that land, and it's all community. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and that's really what it is. It's not a concept we're laying over it. That's the core of what it is community.
Yeah. That just sounds like a wonderful way to be in general. Like, the way you
Yeah.
describe it. And, everything's integrated and working with each other. Yeah. I can see that in lots of different systems. I'm curious when you're doing this work, and, obviously, seeing, such good out there, or, I, I'm curious over the years, like, how have you seen a ripple effect from this? Like if you put something out, like what comes of it, or what do you notice, like or have you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, the one example, so the North Dakota story with Kiss the Ground, that piece has gotten over 2 million views since it was released
Wow.
towards the end of 2024. People care about these stories, and this is not political. This is really like people from all different kinds of walks of life looking at this and saying, yes, I think this is a good way to live. This is the kind of food I want to have. I
Hmm.
want it to come from, somewhere in the vicinity of where I live. And, a couple of years ago when I talked about regenerative agriculture with, a random group of people at a networking event or whatever, a lot of people had, like, were like, what are you talking about? What is that?
Yeah.
Is that organic? What does that mean? And now it's just a lot more people know it. A lot more
Yeah.
people are familiar with it. Maybe that's the circles I'm running in, but I get a hunch that, it's really spreading. That
Hmm.
kind of thinking also is spreading. And people, again, like from very different political backgrounds, are approaching the same kind of techniques. So that to me is a source of inspiration because it's
Yeah.
a way of bringing people together and finding, what better way to connect than over food.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of central to all of us, right? And yeah, like you said, people come together on these topics for different reasons. saving money or wanting to, do good by, the work that they're doing with the earth or whatever the case. It is really interesting. I have noticed just, in my own family, folks that I never thought would speak in a certain way, talk about systems and regeneration and all of this stuff have been. And I'm from Texas originally, and that has been a surprise for me, pleasant surprise, because that hadn't been the case years ago. So, like in that way, I've seen a shift, and it's been around food. It's been
Yeah,
around food and agriculture and how that, kind of working together, as you described. So, pretty interesting,
it's
how
amazing.
this happens and how information spreads in ways that we have no idea.
But it's a
Right.
Yeah.
but it's a backlash to seeing your family, entire families being sick, right? I mean, and being, I don't know. I just think the food system is failing people. Here in Canada, we have a little more socialized, control over certain things, but it's still the same, similar health issues and so on. So I mean, I think this is very. I was even speaking to someone at Web Summit here in Vancouver, and she goes, she doesn't go to the U.S. because every time she goes to the U.S., she gets sick from the food. I was
Wow.
like, that's an interesting observation.
I mean, I noticed that too. I like here in the US when I eat gluten. I don't have celiac disease, but I eat gluten and I just don't feel great. But I go to South America or I go to Europe, fine, no problem. And it's
Interesting.
like, okay, it doesn't even matter here if it's organic. It's still there's something
Hmm.
Like in the processing or something, like maybe
perhaps
there's just
it's
over processing stuff.
and it even could be the species that we've,
Yeah.
Yeah,
selected and selected and selected, and maybe there's more heritage species, in other places. But there's something that we're doing that I think a lot of people are having that experience.
yeah,
hmm hmm
agreed.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a wild world.
You never know. You never know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so tell us a little bit more about All of Us Films. Like it started what? How long ago?
So we started in 2012,
2012.
and
Okay.
really, like I was saying before, with this idea of, how do we bring people together as a team to
hmm
create media that's going to have a positive impact? So that could
Yeah.
be commercials, it could be documentaries, it could be brand films, fundraising pieces. There's all different ways and forms that takes,
hmm
um, and of course, a lot of social media elements. But it's all with that inspiration in mind of like how do we work with other organizations to amplify their messages and create positive change through media? Because we
hmm
know, like, when I was working in more traditional commercials, obviously this works because companies are putting lots and lots of money into making these big commercials
hmm
because it works. It works to influence people in that way. So let's use those same techniques to do it for positive things.
Right.
So that was
Right.
the idea. And, it turns out a lot of other people want to do this kind of work too. So I've had an amazing team around me that whole time, and we've expanded and grown and have, teams all over the world now in different locations. So we're able to work very nimbly and able to make things happen quickly in pretty much any place on earth at this
hmm
point.
So what does your team look like then? Is it a collective
I would
of
I would
of
say it's a
folks that?
collective of sorts. Yeah, I mean, so we have a core team of about 5 people, and then we have a lot of other freelancers and sort of pre-vetted teams that we've worked with over the years. And some of that work really developed also when we were working for about 8 years with the UN Environment Program, filming profile pieces on different environmental leaders all over the world. So we would have teams that we would set up who were based in different parts of the globe and could quickly deploy to different areas to be able to capture content, or, if we had to shoot two different things, one day after the next in two opposite parts of the world, we weren't going to try to fly there and make it happen.
Right.
We wanted to be able to be nimble in that way. And so it's really worked well. And we have amazing people that we collaborate with. And really a trusted team across cultures. It also, of course, it's so much better to work with local people because they know the culture. So
Yeah.
there's always things that you can't know by not being a native person there. So that's wonderful too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the collaborative aspect of it and the the focus of local knowledge and talent and that because I agree. I mean, it's one thing to, to show up and then, try and do a thing, but man, if you can tap that local knowledge and, all of the experiences that people have to bring the
Yeah.
story forth, it just makes it so much better. And I think you can kind of tell, in the work itself.
I think so.
So,
I mean, there's also, there's always idiosyncrasies of every market. So, if you're working in one part of the world where, certain things are the norm, if you're trying to fly in and impose your own way of doing things, it's just
mhm.
not going to go well.
Yeah.
So, and it also, I remember in the middle of the pandemic, we filmed something in the Philippines, and I was able to direct those interviews from here. We had a crew on the ground. It was the middle of the night here, but that's fine. And, we had our crew there. We filmed it with, of course, all the professional equipment, but I was able to be over Zoom looking, eye to eye with the people we were interviewing and conduct those interviews that way. So there's so much that's possible with technology also that just enables that
Hmm.
kind of instant connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And also helping reduce the carbon footprint, right? Because that's one
Absolutely.
less person that
Yeah.
travels, right? So there's, those kinds of benefits as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
even if you have to travel one or two people, you no longer have to travel an entire team.
yeah.
It's a completely different landscape. And then having the people already vetted on the ground, we don't have to go through that process every time all over again. It's
Hmm.
a lot of repeat work with the same folks.
Yeah. So some efficiencies probably are gained as well in that
Definitely.
too. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What
Cool.
and what like in terms of like exotic locations and crazy things that you've seen or have documented, anything come to mind? I'm just trying to as you were thinking like you must see so many things and interact with so many people.
There have been a lot of really wild things. I'm trying to think of one to I mean, so some of the projects with UN Environment Program, I actually got to send other people to go on these adventures, and it was cool for me to live vicariously through them. I mean, there were, times when we had one person going from like I think he went from Egypt to India, and then, I think he stopped in Kuwait to shoot something else and then came back. And like in India, there was a flood. We were supposed to shoot at one of the airports, which is an entirely solar powered airport. And there was flooding, and they said, "Don't worry, it's going to be fine." It was not fine. The whole
Mhm.
airport was closed. It was a major disaster. Um, but we had him continue on his trip, and then we had our crew that was based in India go and shoot that part, once he was already out of the country. So, you know, crazy things like that. I'm trying to think what else. All different kinds of coral reef work. I'm trying to think of one good story, and I'm like, it's all
There's
just
a
I
like
did
lot.
put you on the spot there.
There's
mixed in
probably
my mind.
Yeah.
there's probably a
Um,
lot over the years, right?
There
Um,
have been so many. It's, for me, it's also the personal stories of these, individual people. I'm thinking of a man out on the eastern end of Long Island who was a retired teacher. We made a story about him for ARM technology, which makes the IP that goes into the chips that are in like 70% of the tech that we use every day. And so this guy was also like a firefighter and a roofer or a chimney sweep in his spare time, and he was going up to clean a chimney one day, fell off of a roof, got paralyzed from the waist down, and he through his rehabilitation process got addicted to opioids, and was able to use a VR headset to get off of opioids completely
whoa.
wow.
as a distraction sort of from the pain and to
Mhm.
train his brain to, deal with the pain in a different way. And that was the story we got to tell. And, we just, arrived, got right into his story, got to be part of his life for 2 days. And that's the gift, I think, of this work is to get into somebody's life, share that with as many people as possible, and then see what the ripple effect is.
Totally. That
Wow.
social impact
Yeah.
And technology
and
impact.
technology. I mean,
Right. It really can work together. It doesn't have to be these siloed things.
yeah. Yeah. I think my word of I don't know, word of the month is integration.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really, I'm really like seeing that in like everything people are saying, it comes back to that and connection. So,
Right, and that's what you see in regenerative agriculture. Like um, it's not only doing what our ancestors did, 5, 6, 7 generations ago. It's
mhm,
also integrating technology with that and science that wasn't available back then. But if you integrate them, it can be done in a way that's helpful.
So what are the thing or things that excite you the most, and what are the things that keep you up at night?
Keep me up at night in a good way or a bad way.
you interpret it how you
Yeah.
want.
Um, what was the first part? What excites me?
Yeah. What are the things that you're seeing out there that are the most exciting for you?
I mean, I am a hopeless optimist, so most of the time I'm pretty optimistic about things. When I see people doing positive work, it's inspiring to me. So, when I see this work of dance with children, that's like, oh my God, we're gonna have our world is gonna work because we're doing this kind of things with kids. And it's not only dance, it's just an example, but
hmm
that is incredibly inspiring to me. When I see people who would disagree on lots of things, but they're working together on some project, whatever that is,
Mhm.
that is very, very inspiring to me. Um, People kind of getting out of their own blinder zone.
hmm
When people are willing to sort of let down their guard a little bit or share something vulnerable, that's very inspiring to me. So it's those some of those moments are little and some of them are really big, but that's what keeps me going. The stuff that keeps me up at night is the hatred, that I see playing out in the world in lots of different ways. It's a very difficult time that we're living in. I think
hmm
there's a lot of people who feel emboldened to do violent things or do hateful things that are extremely detrimental to the well-being of society, the well-being of individuals, communities. Um, and I think there's a lot of people that don't feel safe, being who they are. So
Yeah.
that's worrisome to
I
me.
feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't
Yeah.
know where we're going with that. I don't know. I want to feel that it will get better, but I don't know. And I don't think any of us knows. Um, so, so that's something, I mean, on my optimist side, it reinvigorates me to keep doing the important work,
Yeah.
and that's my sort of personal antidote to trying to counteract what I see out there.
hmm
I
hmm
love it. And getting
Yeah.
your hands in the dirt.
Oh my God, that's like
Literally.
incredible. It's incredible. I mean, we have a little bit of land where we live, and I always want to be outside with my hands in the dirt. We got chickens, we're like using the chicken manure for the gardening, and it's like I
Wow.
just whatever. It's a very small scale, but like I know there's science behind, being outside and having your hands in the dirt and inhaling, whatever's there
Hmm.
is very good for your brain, but it certainly feels that way. So,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
The science is there.
When
The
I'm
data's there.
stressed, I am outside and I'm not even the best gardener, but man, I like to be out there doing stuff and yeah, it's like therapy.
really,
It
I mean, we're
is.
not meant to sit in front of screens all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I haven't even been outside today.
Oh, I did. I did. I had to. The sun's shining. I went outside. So, yeah. One of the things that we ask all our guests, we're so curious because we talked to lots of different people. So curious to get your perspective. If you were to create a new playbook and guiding principles about sustainability and entertainment, let's just say, what would be first on your list?
I would look at that, I think, from the documentary lens because, if you're thinking about a feature film or a large scale commercial production, there's huge things to tackle there, and there's amazing groups, like the work that you guys are doing that is tackling those kinds of things. On the documentary side, we're in these small crews all the time, so it's hard
hmm
to always think about that. But when we do, we can make a really big difference. So one of the things we've started doing several years ago is just getting a bunch of reusable water bottles and giving them to the crew. So not necessarily expecting that everyone's going to have one, but we ask people to bring theirs if they have it, and if they don't have it, we have extras, and we just give them to them. So
Hmm.
that's not a big expense. It's something we can do. It's something they can bring back to set, and it means we don't have to buy plastic water bottles. So that's
Hmm.
one thing that's, easy to do. Another thing is like thinking it may be an extra step, but how can we support local farms or local stores when we're buying food for a shoot?
Yeah.
Where are we going to eat? Where are we getting food from? How can we avoid some of the plastic packaging or, get more fresh fruits and vegetables instead of everything packaged? So those kinds of ways of thinking, you don't know who you're influencing when you do that. You
Right.
don't know who is on that crew who's going to then take that somewhere else with them. Um,
Hmm.
it's all those kinds of things. We even had, I mean, this is not exactly in sustainability, but we had a shoot that was kind of an intimate conversation we were filming. And it was two women speaking to each other, and the crew was almost entirely women. And one of the people who was on camera, who's been on a lot of shoots, she said, "I've never been on a shoot with so many women on the crew before." So that it's those kinds of sensitivities.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the same when you're thinking about environmental things and you're thinking about social things and how people are interacting, trying to bring that sensitivity and not knowing that we don't know what the ripple effects of that may be.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah, the work behind the scenes, kind of countering also what you're bringing to the screen through your social impact work, and the stories that you're telling. Yeah, super important and,
Mhm.
and neat to have that full scope of it all in your work.
Right.
So,
I mean, it feels like it would be pretty hypocritical if we were just, completely wasteful and mindless, behind the camera, but trying to tell these like important stories
oh, it
about
happens.
it certainly does. It certainly does. And it's easy because that's what's there.
Yeah, no, I
But
know.
you have to think a little harder. Sometimes you have to spend a little more money, but
Hmm.
it is possible to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Mhm. Thanks,
Well,
Ben.
yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate this conversation and the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it too, and really appreciate what you guys are doing, bringing more of these stories to an audience that might not hear them otherwise. I think that's so important,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful to be one of them.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
We so are we. And please share the podcast with your friends and network.
Absolutely
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you? What are your social
So
handles?
Yeah, so my social handles on Instagram is Benjamin Ryan Nathan, and All of Us Films is at All of Us Films on pretty much every platform, I think. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, those are my platforms at the moment. And yeah, I love to hear from people. So any kinds of ideas people have for projects, or if people want to reach out to get advice on something, I'm always into encouraging people and sharing whatever I can.
Awesome. Well, Ben
Amazing.
Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Picnic Social. Our producer is Colin Miller.